1, 2, 3, 4, test. Now, playback, please. Now, now, now. Stream quality is excellent. Now, stream quality is excellent. Now, stream quality is sleeping. Publish. Part 6. Boom. All right. One. All right. One. All right. One. All right. Cool. Welcome to part 6 of Reading the Sales and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012. It has been so long since we read it that they've changed the layout. They've redeveloped it. So where have I? Okay, how do you navigate the new website? We're at 280. Okay, we've read 282. So the next is 283. Is there that view by sections? Oh yeah, that's the old. Okay, so 283. Section 283. Okay. We're back into it. Nice. It's been 5 months since I did the last part of this. Variation, suspension, or cancellation of special licenses. A constable or any inspector may at any time apply to a licensing committee for an order, varying or revoking any condition of a special license imposed by the committee or imposing any new condition relating to any matters specified in section 147 or suspending the license or cancelling the license. Every application for an order must be made in the prescribed form and manner and contain the prescribed particulars and be made in the be made to the licensing committee that issued the license. The grounds on which an application for an order under this section may be made are as follows. Yo, Big Z. What's up? So I'm assuming you finished work now. Are as follows: that the license premises have have been conducted in breach of any of the provisions of this act or any conditions of the license or otherwise in a improper manner. Nope, haha, still here. Oh, damn it. So you're watching this at work. So nice. That the conduct of the licensee is such as to show that he or she is not a suitable person to hold the license, and that the license premises are being used in a disorderly manner so as to be obnoxious to neighboring residents or to the public. So special licenses. And the secretary must send a copy of the application to the licensee and fix the earliest practicable date for a public hearing of the application and give at least 10 working days of notice of the date, time, and place of the hearing to the applicant and the licensee. Hearing for variation, suspension, or cancellation of special license under Section 283. Un momento. If the licensing committee is satisfied that any of the grounds specified in Section 283 is established and that it is desirable to make an order under this section, it may, by order, vary or revoke any condition of a license imposed by the committee, or impose any new condition relating to any matter specified in Section 147, or suspend the license for any period the committee thinks fit, or cancel the license. Instead of making an order under subsection 1, the licensing committee may adjourn the application for any period it thinks fit to give the licensee an opportunity to remedy any matters that the licensee may require to be remedied within that period. If the licensing committee makes an order under this section, the secretary must send a copy to the secretary of the licensing authority. 285. Suspension or cancellation of manager's certificates. We continue. Any constable or any inspector may at any time apply in accordance with this section for an order by the licensing authority, suspending a manager's certificate or cancelling a manager's certificate. Every application for an order under this section must be in a form approved by the chief executive after consultation with the chairperson of the licensing authority, and be made in the prescribed manner and contain the prescribed particulars, and be made to the licensing authority. The grounds on which an application for an order under this section may be made are as follows: that the manager has failed to conduct any licensed premises in a proper manner, or that the conduct of the manager is such as to show that he or she is not a suitable person to hold the certificate. The secretary of the licensing authority must send a copy of the application to the manager and to the licensee of any licensed premises to which any allegations against the manager relate, and fix the earliest practicable date for a public hearing of the application, and give at least 10 working days notice of the public hearing to the applicant and the manager. If the licensing authority is satisfied that either of the grounds specified in subsection 3 is established and it is desirable to make an order under this section, it may, by order, suspend a certificate or for such period not exceeding 6 months as the licensing authority thinks fit, or cancel the certificate. Instead of making an order under subsection 5, the licensing authority may adjourn the application for any period it thinks fit to give the manager an opportunity to remedy any matters that the licensing authority may require to be remedied within that period. 286. Big one. But before this one, we got something. One moment. I have some of these. Does that show up on the game? How much is the stream delay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So these joined together. I will open these at one if I get to section 300 today. I'll open these if I get to section 300. They're here. 26. Suspension of license for non-compliance with public health or fire precaution requirements. A medical officer of health or any person appointed as a Fire and Emergency New Zealand inspector under Section 166 of the Fire and Emergency New Zealand Act 2017 may apply to the licensing committee for the suspension of the license if he or she has a reason to believe that because of the failure of the holder or any on license or club license to comply with any requirements described in that subsection 2, the health of persons using the premises is likely to be injured or their safety is likely to be endangered. The requirements are those relating to public health or to the escape of people in the event of a fire. Whether in accordance with an evacuation scheme for public safety which meets requirements of Section 76 of the Fire and Emergency Act, New Zealand Act 2017, or by other means, other than requirements under the Building Act 2004. The licensing committee must give notice in writing to the licensee calling upon the licensee to appear before the committee at a time and place to be specified in the notice, being not earlier than 7 working days after the giving of the notice, to show cause why the license should not be suspended. If, after hearing the licensee, if he or she appears, the licensing committee is satisfied that the licensee has failed to comply with any requirement referred to in subsection 2, it may order the licensee to do all such things as may be necessary to meet those requirements within any reasonable time it may specify, and, in the case of default, may suspend the license until those requirements have been met. Despite subsection 3, if in any case to which that subsection applies, the licensing committee is satisfied that because of the licensee's failure to comply with any requirement referred to in subsection 2, the health of the people using the premises to which the application relates is likely to be injured or their safety is likely to be endangered, the committee must suspend the license until it is satisfied that all things necessary or desirable to remedy the default have been done. Yeah. Good apple. Without limiting subsection 3, and despite subsection 4, the licensing committee may, instead of suspending the license, order the closure of any part of the premises accordingly for the undertaking of necessary work, if, in any case to which subsection 4 applies, the committee is satisfied that the risk to the health or the danger to the safety of people using the premises has arisen from any circumstances beyond the control of the licensee or manager, or that the risk or danger can be averted by ordering the closure of part only of the premises. If the work is not completed to the satisfaction of the committee, awesome. Yes, it is. Thank you. Reading law is awesome. Thank you. I shall keep it up. If the work is not completed to the satisfaction of the committee. Oh, by the way, if we get to section 300, I'm going to open a Pokemon pack. If you're still around for that. Yeah, it's great. Where was I up to? 7. If the work is not completed to the satisfaction of the committee within any period as the committee may allow, the committee must suspend the license under subsection 4. While any license is suspended, the premises must be treated as not being licensed premises. Cool. 287. Automatic suspension of license for non-payment of annual fee. A license for which the annual fee prescribed by regulations made under this Act is not paid within 30 days after the day on which it is due is suspended for the period beginning on the day 31 days after the day on which it is due, ending on the day which it and all penalties payable in respect of its late payment are fully paid. Okay. My analytics have just disappeared for some reason. Weird. Now, cancellation of licenses and managed certificates for repeat offending or breaches. That's the title section. Okay, analytics are back. That's good. And now we go to 288. Holdings giving rise to cancellation of license and managers' certificates. Sections 289 and 90, next to 290, apply to a holding of the licensing authority that a person who is a licensee or a manager of any licensed premises has, after the commencement of this section, done anything to that encourage people or is likely to encourage people to consume alcohol to an excessive extent, or promoted or advertised discounts on alcohol in any way that led people or was likely to lead people to believe that the price was 25% or more below the price at which alcohol is normally sold, otherwise than on the premises or in the catalogue or similar price list of the holder of an off license endorsed under section 40, or held or had on the premises a promotion or advertisement of discounts on alcohol that led people or was likely to lead people to believe that the price was 25% or more below the price at which the alcohol was ordinarily sold, and could be seen, or in the case of an audible promotion or advertisement, heard from outside the premises, or promoted or advertised alcohol that was free of charge, otherwise than promoting or advertising the complimentary sampling of alcohol for consumption on premises for which an off license was held, or by a promotion or advertisement within licensed premises that could not be seen or in the case of audible promotion or advertisement heard from outside the premises, or offered otherwise than by means of an offer made only on premises and made only in relation to the buying of alcohol on those premises, any goods or services, or the opportunity to obtain any goods or services, or the opportunity to win a prize on the condition that alcohol was bought. Or by simply stocking, displaying, and selling the alcohol concerned, or promoted or advertised alcohol in a manner aimed at, or that had or was likely to have a special appeal to minors, or sold or supplied to any alcohol on or from the premises to who was under the purchase age 18, or allowed any alcohol to be sold or supplied on from the premises to a person who was under the purchase age, or sold or supplied alcohol to a person at a time when the licensee was not authorized by the license or this act to sell alcohol to or sell or supply alcohol to the person, or sold or supplied alcohol to an intoxicated person. In sections 289 and 290, negative holding means a holding to which subsection 1 applies, which is this. It is a negative holding. 289. Cancellation of a license after 3 holdings within 3 years. A constable or an inspector, as the case may be, must make an application for an order by the licensing authority cancelling the licensee's license if an application has been made for a finding that, if proven, will result in a negative holding, and 2 negative holdings have been made in relation to the licensee in respect of incidents occurring during the period of 3 years, ending immediately before the day on which the incident giving rise to the application referred to in paragraph A occurred, and the application and the 2 previous holdings all relate to the same premises. The licensing authority may cancel the licensee's license if the licensing authority makes a negative holding that is subject to of the application referred to in subsection 1A in relation to the license, and 2 negative holdings have been made in relation to the licensee in respect of incidents occurring during the period of 3 years ending immediately before the day on which the incident giving rise to the negative holding referred to in paragraph A occurred, and all negative holdings relate to the same premises. And 3, a cancellation of a license takes effect on the date specified in the order which date must not be more than 3 months after the date of the third holding. And a decision by the licensing authority to cancel a license under this section may not be appealed against to the High Court. 290. 10 more sections to go, at least. Cancellation of manager's certificate after 3 holdings within 3 years. The licensing authority must make an order cancelling a manager's certificate if the court or the licensing authority makes a negative holding in relation to the manager concerned and 2 other negative holdings have been made in relation to the manager concerned in respect of incidents occurring during the period of 3 years ending immediately before the day on which the incident giving rise to the negative holding referred to in paragraph A occurred. A cancellation under this section takes effect immediately. A decision by the licensing authority to cancel a manager's certificate under this section may not be appealed against to the High Court. 291. Procedure for applications for cancellation of license. An application for cancellation of a license under Section 289 must be made in the form and manner prescribed under Section 285(2). What was that? Oh, that. And the licensing authority must send a copy of the application to the licensee and fix the earliest practicable date for a public hearing of the application and give at least 10 days notice of the hearing to the applicant and the licensee. And the applicant and the licensee are entitled to appear and to be heard at the hearing, whether personally or by counsel, and to call, examine, and cross-examine any witnesses. The evidence of any witnesses and any submissions made must be limited to whether the grounds for cancellation specified in Section 289(2) can be established. Restrictions on person whose license has been cancelled. Goodbye. This subsection applies to a person whose license has been cancelled under Section 289 if less than 5 years has passed since the date of the cancellation of license. The licensing authority must not grant an application for a license to a person to whom subsection 1 applies in respect of premises to which the holdings relate. 293. Restriction on person whose manager's certificate has been cancelled. This subsection applies to a person whose manager's certificate has been cancelled under Section 290 if less than 5 years has passed since the third holding. The licensing authority must not. This is 293. The licensing authority must not issue a manager's certificate to a person to whom subsection 1 applies. A person to whom subsection 1 applies must not be appointed as a temporary manager or an acting manager under Section 229 or 230. a purported appointment at any time of a person to whom subsection 1 applies as a temporary manager or an acting manager under section 229 or 230 is void, and in the case of a purported appointment of an acting manager under section 230, section 232 does not apply to him or her, whether or not the licensee concerned then knows that subsection 1 applies to the person. Subsections 2 to 4 override sections 222 to 231. Cool. 294. Licensing authorities may cancel manager's certificate after making finding. If licensing authorities makes a finding to which section 290 applies but fails at that time to make an order cancelling the relevant manager's certificate, it may at any time after making the finding make an order cancelling the manager's certificate. Did I just hear something in a Discord call?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you read the title of this call?
Yeah.
Hello.
I did. What you streaming?
The Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act. Part
Okay. Very nice. Nice.
Agencies' duty to collaborate.
I see. How much further you got until you finish?
We're now at section 295, and it goes until 418, pretty much.
Oh yeah. I assume the earlier sections will be a bit longer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I've said I've got this Pokemon Journey Together pack. I said once I get to section 300, I'm going to open it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do some gambling. All right. Start reading this. We gotta see that.
Okay, so we're at 295. Duty to collaborate.
Nah, you joking.
Oh, you know what? That's nice. Look at the nice mug. Duty to collaborate. The police, inspectors, and medical officers of health within each territorial authority's district must establish and maintain arrangements with each other to ensure the ongoing monitoring of licenses and the enforcement of this act, and work together to develop and implement strategies for the reduction of alcohol-related harm. Yes. Licensing authority to keep and maintain list. Wow. 296. 4 more sections go. List of licensees and managers who hold licenses or managers' certificates. The Secretary of the Licensing Authority must keep and maintain a list of licensees and managers who hold licenses or managers' certificates. The list must include the following information in respect of a licensee or manager: the licensee or manager's name, the license or manager's certificate number, as the case may be, the license or manager's certificate number, as the case may be, and any holdings to which Section 288 applies made against the licensee or manager. 297. Removal of entry relating to holding. The Secretary of the Licensing Authority must remove an entry on the list relating to a holding on the date that is 4 years after the date on which the incident giving rise to that holding occurred. 298. Purpose of list. The purpose of the list is to ensure the accurate enforcement of the cancellation of licenses and manager certificates, where a license or manager has been repeatedly convicted of offences, or the licensing authority has made findings against a licensee or manager in respect of offences and contraventions of the Act listed in Section 288. 299. The list to be made available to constables and inspectors only. Secretary of the licensing authority must make the list available to the constables and inspectors. The list must not be made available to any other person and does not form part of the register maintained by the Secretary under Section 65. A constable or inspector may only use or access the list for the purpose set out in Section 298. Part 3!
Let's go.
Even though this is part 6 of the live stream series. Licensing trusts, community trusts, and other matters. Part 1, licensing trusts. Establishment of licensing trusts. And this is section 300. That means we open this. Pull up the stream, GJ.
Alright. Let's have a look. Yeah. How do I? Oh, that's right. Gotta look through my subscribe list. Oh no, I can't. How did they come up in my just in my normal YouTube? My recommended.
Oh, actually, it must be subscribed. If you're subscribed, it'll usually pop up pretty high up in on your algorithm. So, if I change something on here, okay, I can. So I'm gonna do this.
Alright.
I'm gonna do this. Then I'm gonna make it bigger.
Okay.
And it's upside down. Okay, the quality is absolutely atrocious on this webcam.
Yeah, we can see the Pokemon pack though.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Alright. Oh my god. It's so blurry. Alright. We opening it.
Alright, we opening.
Alright. We did the old, that's that one, and then energy to the bottom. Energy. The camera's technically seeing them before I am.
Okay.
Lily's cootie fly.
So how's that?
I don't know. Oh my god. The camera. Petalil. I'll do it like this so you can actually see this.
Okay, that would be like green and
Minccino.
No, what the hell?
Toadstool. Maractus.
No, what even is that?
Maractus. Toad's cruel. Not Toad's
Okay.
cruel.
Okay. The evolution.
Yeah. I think
that's kind of tough.
Yeah, that's stage 1. Ruffian.
Oh yeah. Got some drip.
Look at that dude.
All 5 pixels of him.
Oh, that's better. You can see that. Oh. Shiny. Hollow. No, is this... No, this is reverse hollow. Beldum.
Oh yeah. The pink one looks kind of cool.
Yeah. Another reverse holo. Leventia. Oh. Oh. Veluza EX. And
That does
it's
look cool.
cool. So is that?
Oh no, you got the shark.
It is a holo, like a full-on holo. Is that
Pretty good.
pretty funky? Does it show?
Very
Can you see the
nice.
stars on there? Oh, you can see the stars in there.
Yeah,
But
I
it
think
does
so.
have under light. It's got stars and stuff.
I saw it on the other ones. Another one of them had the pattern.
Oh yeah, but yeah, this is a better one. Veluza EX. This is gonna be like maybe $2 whole on
Damn.
the thing. Let's check. TCG player. Veluza EX 043159. Search. Nothing's coming up for it. Is no one selling it?
Damn.
Okay, let's just pop it into the search bar of just normal price charting. Pokemon Journey Together. Ungraded $1.48. Grade 7. Grade 8 is 9. I don't know how what grades would be. $9? Between $1 and $9.
That's big money.
The most
Big
recent
money one day.
the most recent sell of it was $2.39.
Okay.
And
You got some value.
that'll be US dollars. So let's check. 2.39 times 1.6. Approximately $3.82.
Damn.
$3 whole. What? Okay, let's put my camera back over there. I'm
Oh, no. That blood is spazzing out.
I'm gonna chuck a sleeve on it. Balloon? Oh, that's what I got recently. Air balloon from the last time I did a opening on at a park. No, the Botanical Gardens when there was a public concert on, and then I posted that on Instagram. Got a
Okay.
air balloon full art. It is in a sleeve.
go.
All right, let's go back to YouTube thing. I'm going to say thank in the chat.
Thank.
When should we open the next pack?
Now you asking the real questions. I think we should open them. How many packs you got? We got to space these out.
I have two more. I have Mega Evolution. Then I have Mega Evolution Phantasmal Flames.
Oh damn.
Maybe open this one first and then this one.
Yeah. Okay. Damn, I'd be in the trash.
Huh?
I would do my own gambling.
Gambling. Let's go gambling. Oh damn it. Oh damn it.
What?
Oh, the meme.
Oh.
Also, I've had this cup and it gone nice like that multiple times in the live
what?
stream. The mug, the
Oh.
nice mug, but I pranked everyone. It was empty the whole time.
Oh no. Okay.
Get pranked, people that watch the live
Oh.
stream.
For
The
real.
12 people. The 12
Nice.
viewers.
Well, you got 12 right now, or is that in total?
Total.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Are they?
What do you say, Ron?
Before I
You
continue.
talking to me? Yeah, I'm ready to play. I've just been fixing my relics for ages. Wait, can you still hear me with my mic up like this?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I got this flip mic on this set headphones, and I just
does it not mute?
turned my mic off, and it just didn't. No, it just didn't mute.
May as well just do it through Discord, just because that always works.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
What's that? Nah, you ain't. I'm not in the normal spot today.
Oh, damn it. Is it the other way?
Nah, that actually might have worked if I hadn't been totally expecting it.
Alright, I'll keep that in mind. You're not in your usual spot.
Yeah. At the grandma's.
Yeah. Alright. So, for Mega Evolution, when should I open that?
How long 350 gonna take?
350 will take probably an hour.
Okay.
Should I open it at 320? Oh no, once I get to disqualification and vacancies, and that's the end of 321, so 322.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, that could be the one.
Next pack opened at 322. Section 322. But right now we have section 300. Click. What is this? See secondary secondary legislation made under this section. Whoa. Invocargo license. That's just let me go back. I want to go back.
You mean you got lost?
Okay. Go back like this. Oh, send me where? What? What? Oh, it sent me to something that's actually not able to go back on. Oh, okay, okay, that takes me back. Okay, cool. That was weird. Section 300. Oh no, I got a message. Who dares to message me? Um, what am I doing?
Right. Well, I will be back for the grand opening, but I gotta go.
Okay, it should be
I stopped it.
around 11 p.m.
Okay.
Or no, way earlier than that.
11? Oh, that'll be like half an hour. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, but probably earlier than that. 10:50. To get through all these quickly. But I can wait if you want. Licensing trust established by order in council. By the way,
Nice.
alright. Ooh, computer frozen. That's not desirable. Okay. I will put next. Back. Opening at section 322.
Right.
Licensing trust established by order in council. The Governor General may, by order in council, made on the recommendation of the minister, establish a licensing trust for any area that, if that area does not overlap, wholly or partly, the district of any other licensing trust. The order in council may do all or any of the following things in relation to the licensing trust: prescribe its name, define its district in accordance with subsection 4, prescribe the number of members, prescribe the number of members for a quorum at a meeting of the trust, divide, in accordance with subsection 4, the district of the trust into wards for the election of members, and prescribe any other necessary and prescribe the names and boundaries of the ward and the number of members for each ward, and make any other necessary provision for establishing the trust in accordance with this part. Yeah. Okay. Edit. The order in council must appoint the date for the first election of the members of the trust and nominate a person to the chair the first meeting of the members for the election of the president of the trust. The boundaries of the licensing trust district and any wards must coincide with the boundaries of the current statistical mesh block areas determined by Statistics New Zealand and used for parliamentary electoral purposes. An order under this section is secondary legislation. See Part 3 of the Legislation Act 2019 for publication requirements. Secondary legislation made under the section, which I believe can be done, but we will not read it today. 301. When Minister must recommend establishment of licensing trust. The Minister must recommend the making of an order establishing a licensing trust for an area on the request in writing of at least 15% of the residential electors of the area. 302. Licensing trust is body corporate. A licensing trust is a body corporate having perpetual succession. A licensing trust must have a seal. Oh, that kind of seal? Or like a stamp seal? They haven't specified. So maybe a licensing trust can have a pet seal in a big pool at the back of their building. Just saying. That is totally possible and could happen. They could do that. 303. Existing licensing trust continue in existence. This section applies to a licensing trust constituted under the Sale of Liquor Act 1989 and in existence immediately before the commencement of this act in this section called Existing Licensing Trust. Interesting. The licensing trusts are the trusts listed in parts 1 and 2 of Schedule 1. And an existing licensing trust continues in existence as if it were a trust established under this Act, except that the next election of its members must be held on the day on which the next succeeding triennial general election of members of territorial authorities is held under the Local Electoral Act 2001. 304. Alteration of trust boundaries. The Governor-General may, by order in Council made on the advice of the Minister, alter the boundaries of licensing trusts to coincide with the boundaries of the current statistical mesh block areas determined by Statistics New Zealand and used for parliamentary electoral purposes. Mesh blocks. The Minister may give the advice referred to in subsection 1 only on the recommendation of the Local Government Commission, their commission, made in accordance with subsection 3. The Commission may from time to time review boundaries of one or more licensing trusts and after consulting with affected persons, including the members of each trust, any affected licensees, and the trust's electoral officer may recommend their alteration to coincide with mesh blocks. The monopoly provisions in Section 350 do not apply to existing licensed premises in any new area of the trust district after alteration. The alteration of the boundaries of a trust district must not have the effect of disqualifying a member of the trust at the date of alteration whose residence falls outside the new boundaries of the trust district, but this subsection does not affect the ineligibility of any such person to vote or stand as a candidate in later elections of members of the trust. An order in this section is secondary legislation. See Part 3 of the Legislation Act 2019 for publication requirements. And they haven't made any. No one's made any secondary legislation on this. 305. Yep. Functions of licensing trust. The functions of a licensing trust are to sell and supply alcohol and establish and operate premises for sale and supply of alcohol and the provision of accommodation for travelers and the sale and supply of food and refreshments, and carry on any other business in the trust's opinion can be conveniently carried on in conjunction with the functions set out in paragraphs A and B. For the purpose of performing its functions, a licensing trust may do anything that a natural person may do and issue debt securities. Licensing trust liable to taxes. The licensing trust is liable to income tax rates and all other taxes and duties as if it were a body corporate formed for private pecuniary gain. 7. How licensing trust may spend profits. A licensing trust may spend or distribute the net profit that it makes in performing its functions for all or any of the following purposes: the promotion, advancement, or encouragement of education, science, literature, art, physical welfare, and cultural and recreational purposes. Building, laying out, maintaining, or repairing buildings or places intended to further any of the purposes described in paragraph A, and any other philanthropic purposes. Elections. 308. Election of members. The members of a licensing trust are elected in accordance with sections 309 to 314. These are the next ones. 309. Qualification to be elected or appointed a member. A person is qualified to be elected or appointed a member of a licensing trust if he or she is not disqualified under section 322, and in the case of a trust district not divided into wards, is disqualified under section 312. Or in the case of a trust district divided into wards, is qualified in section 312 to vote in the ward to which the election or appointment relates. First election of members. The first election of members of a licensing trust established under section 300 must be held on the day appointed by the order and council establishing the trust. The electoral officer for the election is the electoral officer of the territorial authority in whose district the licensing trust is situated. Second and later elections. If the first election of members of a licensing trust is not held on the same day as a triennial general election, the second election must be held on the day of a triennial general election that is at least 4 years after the first election, and all later elections must be held on the same days as later triennial elections. If the first election of members is held on the same day as triennial general elections, all later elections must be held on the same days as later triennial general elections. Great. Electoral officer for the second and later elections is the electoral officer of the territorial authority in whose district the licensing trust is situated. Who is qualified to vote in election of members of licensing trust? Subject to subsection 2, a person is qualified to vote in the election of members of a licensing trust if that person is qualified as a residential elector of a territorial authority in whose district the trust is situated and resides in the trust district. If the trust district is divided into wards, a person who is qualified as a residential elector of the territorial authority on the basis of a residential address within that ward is qualified to vote in the election of the member or members for that ward and is not qualified to vote in the election of any other member. Conduct of election. Subject to this part and any regulations made under this Act, the election of members of a licensing trust must be conducted under the Local Electoral Act 2001 and as an election under that Act. 314. Electoral roll. The electoral roll of a licensing trust is if the trust district is contained within the district of a territorial authority, the electoral roll of residential electors of that territorial authority who reside in the trust district, and in any other case, the electoral rolls for the residential electors of territorial authorities whose districts the trust districts overlap, who reside in the trust district. Ugh, weird wording. The electoral officer of a territorial authority whose district contains or overlaps a trust district must indicate on the electoral roll for the residential electors of that territorial authority the names of the persons qualified to vote at elections of the licensing trust, and if the trust district is divided into wards, for each person who is qualified to vote at elections of members of the licensing trust, the ward in which that person is qualified to vote. The electoral officer may indicate the names of any persons qualified to vote by appropriate words, abbreviations, or marks. Term of office. The members of a licensing trust hold office until their successors are appointed or elected at the next triennial general election of members. An individual member ceases to hold office if he or she vacates his or her office. A member is eligible for re-election. Members. Maybe I go until Judo comes back before opening the pack. Election of President of Trust. At the first meeting of a licensing trust after an election of members The members must elect one of themselves as the president of the trust. For the purposes of electing the president, the meeting must be chaired. In the case of the election of the president following the first election of members by the person nominated for the purpose owned by the Order in Council establishing the trust, and in all other cases by the Secretary of the Trust. If the votes for the president are tied, the election must be decided by the candidates drawing lots, as directed by the members. The president comes into office on election and holds office until the election of a successor and may stand for re-election as a president. Vacancy in office of president. The office of president becomes vacant on the written resignation of the president delivered to the secretary of the trust, the president ceasing to be a member of the trust. When a vacancy occurs, the secretary must convene a meeting of the trust for the election of a successor as president. Deputy president. Read that soon. Hmm. Right. We're so back. We're so back. Deputy president. The members of a licensing trust may appoint one of themselves as a deputy president. The deputy president must act as a president of the trust during the temporary or absence or incapacity of the president, and in that capacity may do anything that the president could have done. The exercise or performance by the deputy president or of any power, duty, or function of the president is conclusive evidence of his or her authority to exercise or perform that power, duty, or function. Minister may appoint deputy of member. This section applies where the minister is satisfied that a member of a licensing trust is unable to, though through illness, absence, or some other adequate reason, to perform his or her duties. In any case to which this section applies, the minister may appoint a person to act as a as a deputy for the member, and the person appointed must be a person nominated by the trust. If the trust fails to nominate a person selected by the member of the trust, the validity of the appointment of a person as deputy and the acts of a person of that person as deputy and of the trust while that person is acting in that capacity must not be challenged in any proceeding on the basis that there was no ground for making the appointment or the ground for making the appointment had come to an end. Remuneration. A licensing trust may pay the president and each member of the trust fees, travelling allowances, and expenses in accordance with the framework determined by the government from time to time for the classification and remuneration of statutory and other bodies. 322, disqualifications and basic conceits. So we can open this now. We made it here. But shall we wait a bit? Possibly. Could wait a bit. When is he back? When is he back? Um, People, see the message. Okay, so we can open this, but soon. Message. For real. Disqualification from election or appointment as member of licensing trust. A person is disqualified from election or appointment as member of a licensing trust if he or she is not a residential elector of the license of the trust district, or in the case of the election or appointment of any member or for a ward or of a dividend trust district is not a residential elector entitled to vote at elections of members for that ward, has directly or by virtue of his or her relationship with another person, with another person, such an involvement or appearance of involvement with the alcohol industry that he or she could not perform the duties of a member of a licensing trust without actual bias or the appearance of bias. Yeah, fair enough. If the effect of the alteration of the boundaries of a trust, district, or ward on the recommendation of the local government commission under Section 304 or 337 is to disqualify a person under subsection 1A. He or she is to be treated as if he or she were not disqualified under the subsection for the purpose of the next two following triennial general elections of members unless he or she changes his or her residential address during that period. Three two three. Disqualification from counting to be member of licensing trust. A member of a licensing trust is disqualified from counting to be a member of the licensing trust if he or she would be disqualified under Section 322 from election or appointment as a member. However, where an order is made under Section 30 of the Protection of Personal and Property Rights Act 1988 in respect of a member of a licensing trust, the member is not disqualified from continuing as a member of the trust by reason only of the order, but while the order remains in force, the member is deemed to have been granted leave of absence and is not capable of acting as a member of the trust. Offence of acting as a member of licensing trust while disqualified. A person who, while disqualified under Section 322 or 323, does any act as a member of a licensing trust commits an offence and is liable on conviction to a fine of not more than $1,000. 325. Vacation of office by members. A member of a licensing trust vacates his or her office if he or she dies or becomes disqualified under Section 322 or resigns by notice in writing to the president or secretary of the trust or is removed under Section 328 or is absent without the leave of the trust from 4 consecutive meetings of the trust. 326. Anything? Extraordinary vacancies. An extraordinary vacancy in the office of a member of a licensing trust occurs when a member vacates office under Section 325. An extraordinary vacancy must be filled by an election under the applicable provisions of the Local Electoral Act 2001. However, if the extraordinary vacancy is a vacancy in the office of an elected member that occurs 12 months or less than the 12 months before the date fixed for the next triennial general election of members, either the vacancy must remain unfilled until the next triennial general election of members, or the trust may by resolution appoint a person that is qualified to be elected as a member to fill the vacancy, in which case the person appointed is treated for all purpose as he or she has been elected. A person elected or appointed to fill an extraordinary vacancy holds office only for the remainder of the previous member's term. Removal from office. But we shall get to that after we open a pack. Who's around? Blues. Well, what is the time? 11:01. That's when I said, as well as past section 322, I had opened APAC. So I shall set the camera up again with a wacky ass cam in the middle. Wacky cam with the atrocious quality. Boom. Get ready for the opening. Here we go. Energy. I'll do it like that. Energy. Launcher. I'm pressing them in the right way. Ting-a-ting. Naked. Killia. Strange timepiece. Shuckle. 4 more cards to go. Chiyu. Solrock. Yeah. Ho 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 ho. Can you see that? Shedinja. Full art. Full art. Very good look. Very sparkly. Wow. And it's got the gold star down there. And then to end it off, we have a holo of Kyogre. How good. Sound asleep. Yeah. Next is to read 327. For review, we got that. To have it upright on the stream, I gotta do that. Well, it's been 1 hour and 37 minutes. I might go until at least 2 hours. We will see from there. Oh, I'm gonna look up this wonderful. Okay, so shit. Inserted in 144 132. Ooh, around $2.32 on TCG Player. I'm not sure if that's showing up. Most recent sale $1.90 though. Low sale price 3-month snapshot. Low sale price 12 cents. High sale price $6.49. In a year, the biggest it's gone is $20, $19.99, and as low as 6 cents. Oh my god, this bloody chair. Okay, there we go. Not bad. Not bad at all. Alright. Alright. Someone sold it for $20. Near mint hollow foil. I'd say so because I just opened it. The Looks mostly aligned. Might be slightly, very slightly off center, but oh. We've opened 2 packs now. Mm-hmm. Okay. 3, 2, 7. 3, 2, 7. Buzz, 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 buzz. What's happening on my phone? Hang on. Before I read 2, 2, 7. How far? I'm like 3/4 of the way through. Okay. District court may issue removal summons. Summon. The office of the district court in the district of a licensing trust may issue a removal summons if evidence is produced in that court by affidavit or in some other form that a member of the trust is or has become under this or another act disqualified from continuing in office or otherwise incapable of holding office. For the purpose of this section, a removal summons is a God. A removal summons is a summons. I've just seen the view count spike up. I opened a Pokemon pack. Got that one. For the purpose of this section, a removal summons is a summons in the prescribed form requiring the member in question to appear before the district court and give reasons why he or she should not be removed from office on the ground of disqualification or other incapacity referred to in subsection 1. 328. The district court may remove member from office. The office of the district court that has issued a removal summons under section 327 may remove the member in question if, on the day at the time appointed for the member's appearance, the court is satisfied that the summons has been served on the member and on the basis of affidavit evidence or oral evidence on oath, the member is or has become, under this or another act, disqualified from continuing in office or otherwise incapable of holding office. In proceedings under this section, the district court may exercise all the powers that it may exercise in its ordinary jurisdiction in civil cases, and the procedure of the district court applies as far as possible. And we're back. As far as not possible, applicable. The district court must not, under this section, hear any matter in relation to a disputed election of a member of a licensing trust. Conduct of business. What's the time? 1:47, and that's how long it's been going for, and it's 23:18. 11:18. The first meeting of trust. The first meeting of a licensing trust established under Section 300 must be held time and place appointed by the person nominated by the Order in Council establishing the trust to chair the first meeting. 330. Procedure at meetings. Subject to Section 331(1), meetings of a licensing trust must be held at such times and places as the trust decides. The president must chair all meetings of the trust at which the president is present. Each question to be decided at a meeting must be decided by a majority of the valid votes recorded on the question. The person chairing the meeting may vote in his or her own right as a member, and as a chair has a casting vote if the voting is tied. 331. Trusts may determine own procedure. Subject to subsection 2, a licensing trust may regulate as it thinks fit in its meetings and proceedings and the general conduct of its business. Subsection 1 is subject to this part and any regulations made under this Act and the Local Government Official Information Act and Meetings Act 1987. 332. A financial year. The financial year of a licensing trust begins on 1st of April and in each year and ends on the 31st of March in the following year. 333. Accounting records. Accounting records. The member of a licensing trust must ensure that there are kept at all times accounting records that correctly record the transactions of the licensing trust and will enable the members to ensure that the financial statements of the licensing trust the trust comply with this act, and will enable the financial statements of the licensing trust to be readily and properly audited. 1A. The members of a licensing trust must establish and maintain a satisfactory system of control of the accounting records. The accounting records must be kept in English, in a written form in English, or in a manner in which they are readily accessible and convertible into written form in English. Water. If the members fail to comply with this section, each member commits an offence and is liable on conviction to the penalty set out in Section 3742 of the Companies Act 1993, but subject to Section 376 of that Act, which applies as if the members were the board of a company. Heading replace, blah, 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 blah. 334. Financial statements. The members of a licensing trust must ensure that within 5 months after the end of each financial year, financial statements are prepared for the trust for the financial year. The financial statements must be prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting practice. The financial statements must be audited by the Auditor General. The audited financial statements must, as soon as practicable after the completion of their audit, be publicly notified in accordance with the regulations made under this Act. If the members fail to comply with the requirements of this section, each member commits an offence and is liable on conviction to the penalty set out in Section 374(2) of the Companies Act 1993, but subject to Section 376 of that Act, which applies as if the members were the board of a company. Annual meeting of electors. A licensing trust must hold a meeting of electors within 2 months after the annual financial statements have been audited by the Auditor General. The trust must give the electors public notice of their meeting not less than 10 working days before the meeting. At the meeting of electors, the president and members of the trust must present the annual report, to the electors on the trust's operations in the immediate past financial year, and provide a reasonable opportunity for electors at the meeting to ask questions about and to discuss or comment on those operations. The annual report must include the financial statements for the immediate past financial year and show separately for that financial year the total remuneration paid to the members of the licensing trust, and for employers or former employees who were paid remuneration and benefits of $100,000 per annum or more as employees, the number of those employees broken down into bands of $10,000, and a list of all grants made by the licensing trust. Power to compromise with creditors. A licensing trust has the power to enter into a compromise or arrangement with its creditors as if it was a company incorporated under the Companies Act 1993, and that act applies with any necessary modifications to that compromise or arrangement. Variation of licensing trust. Variation of establishment of licensing trust. The Governor-General may, by order in council, made on the recommendation of the Minister in respect of a licensing trust, vary the number of members. Vary the number of members required for a quorum at a meeting of the trust. Divide the trust into district into wards for the election of members. For each ward, prescribe its name, its boundaries, and in accordance with subsections 2 and 3, and the number of members. Alter the boundaries of a ward in accordance with subsections 2 and 3, or wholly redivide the trust district into wards. Rename a ward. Alter the number of members for a ward. Abolish all the wards of the trust district. The boundaries of any ward that must coincide with the boundaries of the current statistical mesh block areas determined by Statistics New Zealand and used for a parliamentary electoral purposes. Mesh blocks. In relation to variation under subsection 1D2 or 1E, the Minister must give the requisite advice only on the recommendation of the Local Government Commission, made in accordance with subsection 4. The Commission may, from time to time, review the boundaries of wards or propose wards of a licensing trust, and, after consulting with the affected persons, including members of each trust and any affected licensees, and the trust's electoral officer may recommend. In the case of existing wards, their alteration to coincide with mesh blocks, or in the case of proposed wards, new boundaries to coincide with mesh blocks. An order under this section is Secondary Legislation C Part 3 of the Legislation Act 2019 for publication requirements. See secondary legislation made under this section. And we have it for Clutha Licensing Trust, or Oamaru, or Ashburton. Back to section 337, please. Cool. Random stuff. 338. Creation, alteration, or abolition of wards takes effect at next triennial general election of members. This section applies when an undivided trust is divided into wards, or a trust district divided into wards is wholly redivided, or all the wards of a trust district are abolished. The creation, alteration, abolition of a ward referred to in subsection 1. How many more to go? Okay. At section 350, once I finish that, I will open this 350. Cool. Creation, alteration, or okay, where do I get to? Yeah, here. The creation, alteration, or abolition of a ward referred to in subsection 1 takes effect only at the next triennial general election of members, except to the extent that is necessary for holding that election. 339. Alteration of number of members for ward takes effect at next triennial general election of members. Where the number of members of a ward of a divided trust district is altered, the alteration takes effect only at the next triennial general election of members, except to the extent that is necessary for holding that election. Amalgamation of licensing trust. 340. Amalgamation of the licensing trust. Two or more licensing trusts may be amalgamated into one new trust, in accordance with sections 341 to 345. 341. Notice of amalgamation proposal. Where two or more licensing trusts propose to amalgamate, each trust must give public notice of the amalgamation proposal. The notice must refer to the right of electors to request a meeting under Section 342 and the right of electors to request a poll under Section 343. The amalgamation proposal must include the names of the people who are first members of the new licensing trust and the proposed name of the new licensing trust, and may include any other information the licensing trusts concerned think necessary or desirable to inform electors properly of the proposal. 342. How many more? Actually, more interesting stuff further down, but it's ages away. 342. Meeting to discuss amalgamation proposal. The electors of the trust concerned may, within 20 working days of publication of a notice under Section 341, by written notice of the trust which they are individually electors, request that trust to hold a public meeting to discuss the amalgamation proposal. If 50 or more electors request a meeting, the trust must hold a public meeting within 20 working days after it receives the required number of requests. 343. Poll on amalgamation proposal. The electors of the trust concerned may, within 40 working days of publication of a notice under Section 341, by written notice to the trust of which they are individually electors, request a poll of electors to be held on the amalgamation proposal. The trust must arrange for a poll to be held if 15% or more electors requested. A poll required to be held under subsection 2 must be conducted in accordance with regulations made under this Act. The amalgamation proposal is approved if a majority of the number of valid votes recorded is in favour of the proposal. 344. Amalgamation by order in council. If an amalgamation proposal is approved under Section 343(4), or if no poll is required to be held, the amalgamating trusts must, if they proceed with the amalgamation, submit to the Minister the proposal and copies of the latest audited financial statements of each trust. On the recommendation of the Minister tendered as the request of each of the amalgamating trusts, the Governor-General may, by order in council, amalgamate two or more licensing trusts into one new trust, and define the district of the new trust in conformity with the appropriate mesh blocks. And an order under this section is secondary legislation. See Part 3 of Legislation Act 2019 for publication requirements. No secondary legislation. Big one. Effect of order in council. An order in council is under Section 3442 must specify a date not less than 14 days after the date of the making of the order for the provisions in subsection 2 to apply. On the date specified in the order, the amalgamating trusts are dissolved. All real and personal property, including all licenses under this Act, belonging to each of the amalgamating trusts vests in the new trust. All money payable to the amalgamating trust is payable to the new trust. All liabilities, contracts, engagements, rights, and authorities of each of the amalgamating trusts are liabilities, contracts, engagements, trusts, and authorities of the new trust. All proceedings by or against the amalgamating trusts may be carried on or prosecuted by or against the new trust. Nothing authorized or affected under this section places amalgamating the trusts in breach of or default under any contract or in breach of trust or in breach of confidence or otherwise makes themselves guilty of a civil wrong or gives a right to or gives rise to a right for a person to terminate, cancel, or modify a contract or an agreement, or enforce or accelerate the performance of an obligation or require the performance of an obligation not otherwise arising for performance, or places that the amalgamating trust in each breach of an enactment, rule of law, or contractual provision prohibiting, restricting, or regulating the assignment, transfer, or issue of any property or the disclosure of any information, or releases a surety wholly in or part from an obligation, or releases or discharges a contract or security, or entitles any employee to receive any payment or other benefit by reason that he or she seized as a result of this act to be an employee of an amalgamating trust. Voluntary administration and liquidation. Voluntary administration and liquidation under Companies Act 1993. Part 15A, 16, and 17 of the Companies Act 1993 apply, with any necessary modifications to a licensing trust as if it were a company incorporated under that Act. However, Section 2412A and B of the Companies Act 1993 does not apply to the liquidation of a licensing trust, and instead a liquidator may be appointed by a resolution of the members. Distribution of assets. One moment. Crazy. Okay. Distribution of assets. Any net surplus, whether or not in money of a licensing trust in liquidation, must be distributed to the territorial authority in whose district the trust is situated. If the trust overlaps 2 or more territorial districts, the surplus must be distributed in shares to be determined by the High Court in proportion to the number of residents of each territorial authority district who are electors of the licensing trust. For the purposes of subsection 2, the number of residents who are electors is to be counted as the date of the last triennial general election of members. Special provisions relating to existing district and suburban trusts. 348. Application of sections 349 and 350. Sections 349 and 350 apply to each of the district and suburban licensing trusts named in Part 1 of Schedule 1. 349. Poll may be held on completion proposal. In respect of a licensing trust to which this section applies, a poll of residential electors in the trust district may be held on a completion for a complete competition proposal. For the purposes of this section, a competition proposal means a proposal that the trust gives up its present exclusive right to hold on licenses for hotels and taverns and off licenses for any premises other than certain club premises and premises on which wine is sold or any kind of alcohol is made within the trust district, and in return for giving up that right, they gain the right to carry on any business outside as well as within the district. Subject to subsection 5, a poll must be held on competition proposal if the licensing trust so resolves, or at least 15% of the residential electors in the trust district so request in writing. The poll must be conducted in accordance with regulations made under this Act. If the competition proposal is not carried, no further poll must be held under this section in respect of that licensing trust until a period of 3 years has expired. Section 350, another big one, which goes on for a while. Once I finish reading that, we'll open this and then end the stream afterwards. Section 350. Monopoly provisions continue to apply unless and until a competition proposal is carried in respect of a licensing trust to which this section applies, then despite of any of the other provisions of this Act, an on-license must not be issued to any person other than the licensing trust for any hotel or tavern in the trust district. An off-license must not be issued for any premises in the trust district except to the licensing trust or for premises for which a license to which subsection 4 applies is held, or for any premises on which any kind of alcohol is made. A license must not be issued for any premises outside the district or for any purpose, any conveyance operated in whole or in part outside the trust district to the licensing trust or any person on behalf of the licensing trust or in respect of any premises in which the licensing trust has any estate or interest, or any company in which the licensing trust holds any of the issued shares, and other than shares that carry no right to participate in to participate beyond a specified amount in the distribution of either profits or capital, or any company in which the licensing trust has the power to appoint any director or any trustee or trustees of a trust in any trustees or trustees of a trust in respect of which the licensing trust has the power to appoint any trustee or any other person, body corporate or trustee, if the licensing committee or the licensing authority is satisfied that the application by that person, body corporate or trustees is made pursuant to an arrangement designed to enable the trust to evade the prohibitions set out in subparagraphs I to 5. Subparagraphs 1 to 5. D. The licensing trust must not spend or distribute any of its net profits under Section 307 outside the trust district. Every off-license issued under subsection 1B IA. IA? Surely that's a typo. That's not a typo, that's actually a thing. IA. II. Interesting. Anyway, every off-license subsection issued under Section 1B IA must be issued subject to a condition that alcohol must not be sold or delivered on or from the premises for which the license is held, unless it is alcohol of a kind that immediately before the commencement of the Sale of Liquor Act 1989 could have been sold or delivered under a wine reseller's license granted under the Sale of Liquor Act 1962. A license must, if renewed, be renewed subject to a condition that alcohol must not be sold on or delivered on or from the premises for which the license is held, unless it is alcohol of a kind that immediately before the commencement of the Sale of Liquor Act 1989 could have been sold or delivered under a wine reseller's license granted under the Sale of Alcohol Liquor Act 1962, if it is an off-license issued under subsection 1BIA of this section or section 216B3 of the Sale of Liquor Act 1989, or a license which subsection 4 applies. This subsection applies to a license if it was granted as a wine reseller's license under the Sale of Liquor Act 1962, or it was an off-license granted in substitution for a wine reseller's license granted under the Sale of Liquor Act 1962. Subpart 2, Community Trusts. We are at 351. Conversion of licensing trust to community trust. And that's where we will leave it. But this needs to be opened. Uno momento. I changed the camera again. Bruh. 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 Boom. Boom. Oh. wonder if I can take a video of it while I'm opening it, so I can get this video out as well. Save it as a draft or something. Go like this, and this, and do that at the same time. 20. Undo. Discard. Okay. I'm opening it with one hand this time, in front of the Cell of Alcohol Act 2012. Is it possible to open one of these with one hand? May need. This is the Phantasmal Frames. I need like a pin. Hello. You know what, let's just do it two-handed like this. I can also do that. Then that's over there. It's proving to be very hard. Pause. I can also flip this up. Oh, okay, this will be so much easier. I can start this again. Here we go. I can open it on this camera and that camera. Boom. Oh, actually. Should have done this from the start. Oh, I ripped it. Oh. Okay, we start with energy. Oh, that's around the wrong way. Okay. Now I'm going to do this instead. That's just one card, is it? Okay. Darumaka. Bronzor. Dugong. Ghastly. Bronzong. Sacred Charm. Enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dalmatian. Charmeleon. Yo. Yowie. Yowie. Meowth. Full art. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And last one. Pormont. Yeah. Very nice. I'll take this. But hitting this one. Meowth. Nice. Didn't even need that pin. Can I save that as a draft on here? Let's do some research on this card and get it into a back over there. Get it into a sleeve. Nice, it's in the sleeve. Cool, let's do some research. Meowth. Meowth. 106. Not stocked on TCG Player. Well, what about just in search? Ungraded. Completely ungraded. Meowth 106094 is $14.85. Ooh. Thanks. eBay only. Apparently only on eBay that. Interesting. TW, I don't know what that means. I'm going in between. The most recent sell was 10th of March 2026 at $14.50 on eBay. All sold a lot on eBay. I'm not sure if it counts that as the English one or as the Japanese one or Chinese one, I don't know. But anyway, this stream will end soon because I've done everything I need to do. And pulled some full arts, which I'm pretty happy with, and illustration rares. Nice. Someone viewed it recently. There was someone, well, an extra person viewed it, as that the viewer count went up at whatever time that is. So hello, whoever that was. Anyway, thank you for watching. Part 7 will come later. Who knows when, because this took 5 months for part 6 to come out. Goodbye in 3, 2, 1, boom. Oh no, boom.